morning, Breakfast Club PT live streaming on March 14th. He's Tony Maritato. That's Dave Kittle. I'm Jimmy McKay. And Dave's saluting there, but a couple days ago, he was flexing. Flexing on you. How do you want to set this one up, Dave? Should I just we talked about it on Tuesday, but it is sort of even taken flight even further than Tuesday. I'll set it up and you come in.
Go ahead.
So you threw out a question on the 11th. So just a couple days ago, and you said a physical therapist should be physically fit if they want to charge $250 to $400 per visit. Agree or disagree? So statement, question, and you accompany it with a photo of you at a gym, giving a nice solid bicep flex there. And then this thing got legs. This thing got legs. It got 87,000 legs because it got 87,000 views. So walk me through, like, what were you like? How'd this start? Because we didn't even get like, why'd you do it? Yada yada yada. Like, what, why'd you share this? What was the intent? Where'd this come from?
Sure, and I did publicly say on Twitter why, which I've learned now that a magician should never reveal their tricks or their intent. So I got smashed on that. It was literally like I took some other pictures. I took another with like a shirt that covered my arm, and I wasn't even really flexing. So I could have shared that one. I obviously I knew it would be a little more provocative, but I don't know what specifically, other than what I mentioned to you and Tony with Nick Huber, and one potential formula or technique in terms of growing a Twitter following. I literally just posted something that I knew was going to be remarkable or polarizing. Remarkable meaning, interesting.
What are you making your remark about?
Yeah. So that was just the intent. It was something at the intersection with healthcare, right? So it's cost, price, and then physically fit, which is impossible to define, right? And then of course some of the aesthetic component, little skin, little Instagram action. So that was kind of the intent. I know it's going to rub some people the wrong way. I know some people unfollowed me, and then I also got a whole bunch of other followers. So that was literally the intent, was just to kind of stir the pot. And I'm okay to admit that publicly.
Yeah. I thought I thought it was interesting because there were people on both sides of the fence. There were people that were agreeing with you. I thought it would have been more polarizing. I thought it would have been more close to 80-20. It was closer to 50-50. And I think if you did a blind poll, it might have been even closer to 50-50 than it was.
Can you share your phone number so in case anybody wants to call in?
I can do it on speakerphone, but I don't have my microphone set up, so I can do it via speakerphone. So we can do that. So any questions, any comments on this, we can turn this into a call-in show. Happy to do that.
I would love, I mean, maybe not now, but if someone's watching live, any of the folks that disagreed with the question, because again, I had to remind people, as you guys helped me on Tuesday, that it was a question, and I know the picture makes it, you assume, you jump to conclusions that that's my stance, but I don't explicitly say that, and no one asked me explicitly, so people assume that that's my stance or our stance or whatever. Our meaning my practice, not you guys. So I would love for someone to potentially call in that disagrees. I mean, let's talk about it now, because all of the conversations I've had with folks that disagree with the question has been over comments. And Vince Gutierrez says, he commented on Facebook Live, bad press is good press. And I think we touched on that on Tuesday.
Yeah, any press is good press. And I know Vincent, I thought he first was saying something about bench press. But he gets it. I think most of us get it. We know, the intent behind it. It gets attention. It gets the conversation going. And truthfully, I mean, I'm impressed with the amount of positive response. And if you guys, whoever didn't hear me mention it on Bo's podcast last night, I came back. I said, after rereading it, after looking at the replies that you got, it really wasn't, you didn't say you have to be physically fit. You didn't define what physical fitness is. You didn't say you had to have 23-inch biceps to, charge this amount or be impressive or do anything. You just put the content out there. And of course, we see the nerves that it hits. We see the response that it gets. And I still stand by what I said, that I think there's a lot of insecurity in the profession, but in the population in general. I think people read into what you're saying based on my own insecurities. And so that's what we're seeing coming out. But bottom line is it's driving the attention. It's starting the conversation, which I think needs to be had.
I do. Yeah. So Jimmy, I watched Tony's conversation on Bo Benko's podcast yesterday, and I was very happy to hear that Tony had switched sides, because obviously I'm on, the agree type side, but even though I didn't say it or whatever, that's the assumption. So Tony switched from Tuesday to Thursday. Tony went from disagree to agree. So that's
Right.
That's very interesting.
Here's my thoughts. And I don't know if I went too deep into what my actual thoughts were on the question, which is, do I think you have to be? No. Do I think you need to communicate value in order to get $250 to $400? Or do I think you need to communicate value to get $1? Yes. Do I think people judge people superficially and will continue to do that? Yes. Do I think that's fair? No. None of these things are mutually exclusive. Like, do I think it happens? Yes. Do I think it should? No. Do I think you could do something different to communicate value to command that sort of fee? Yes. People do it every single day. I had a conversation. I'm working on a project with an organization, I won't say who, and I want to reach through the screen, and it's with healthcare providers. I want to reach through the camera, reach through the screen, because I keep asking them questions about the people that they serve, because that's who we're going to show the videos to. And they keep talking about, and this is going to shock you, themselves. The first thing that comes out, I think I should have a dry erase board and just do hash marks. When I say, what will this look like if this is successful for the person this is for, they say, our evidence-based treatment, our education, our interventions. And I'm like, is this thing on? Is there some sort of modification going on after I put words into the microphone and they hear it? So I think it's funny how people give answers that they think they're supposed to. We become photocopies of photocopies of photocopies. So I think if you lead with value, you get people to pay attention. This was if you watched or if you were in person, if you're one of the 50 people in person at my CSM talk, or the 100 people who watched the YouTube video, which tells you which one might have more leverage, pay attention and spend time. These are transactions. Can you get someone to pay attention to you long enough to decide if they want to spend money? Yes. Can you do it with biceps? Sure. Can you do it with words? Yes. Can you do it with proof? Yes. Can you do it with credibility? Yes. Should you be doing a little bit or all of them? Yes.
And I think what's interesting too is last night I didn't get to say it, but I was like, there's a reason a Ferrari looks like a Ferrari and not a station wagon, right? There's a reason why I think it's funny that one of my most popular posts on LinkedIn is still, should we use the words or the term doctor of physical therapy, right? Why is it okay to flex the term doctor? Everybody wants to be called a doctor, but it's not okay to flex a bicep. It's not okay to flex other aspects. That it's just about the image. And that's a big part of that first line of communication. One of the things that I always talk about when we talk about pricing, people are like, should you put your price on your website? Don't put your price on your website. I'm like, the price is the number one single easiest way to convey what your perceived value is. If I say that something is $1 and I say that something else is $100, clearly the thing I'm trying to sell for $100, I at least think it is more valuable. That's why I'm putting that. It's all just communication, but it hits that nerve, it hits that insecurity, and this communication is okay, but that communication is off limits.
Yeah. I did see people that I know and watch how they communicate on Twitter, skip right to literally jump to a conclusion and insert their own agenda. But this is not new to this. Like, they literally jumped to a conclusion, skipped past to what you said, would react, and this is the town square of media, right? This is people reacting. This is people oohing and ahhing and pointing, and they sort of missed it, which was, I don't know. I thought unique, but also not unique.
I'm also really glad that Jimmy did not get drug into this. He posed that question. He like reposed his own question. Still looks like the golden boy, which is incredible. I love it. And I'm glad that there was no backlash, like someone saying like, you know, Jimmy, you're such like a model physical therapist. I can't believe you would have, you know, given this airtime. And I'm so glad. Hopefully none of that happened. So I'm glad if it didn't.
Right. Golden boy, that is a first. I'm going to write that down. I'll bring up something else I did on Twitter, and I just want your thoughts on it. And there, again, no agenda, but this is something else that had a little bit of Twitter fire under it, which again, people don't like the platform. And I'm like, we're the platform. You know that, right? Like we're the people. When we blame the media, I'm like, you know, you're the one creating words, and that's media. So this was a different one. So I won't bring up the discussion, but APta, the American Academy of Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapy, which I've done stuff for before, they have a modern practice definition that came out, right? And it says this perspective aims to provide clinicians, researchers, and stakeholders with a modern definition that improves understanding of OMPT, Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapy, right? And then I watched other people have discussions, and I won't even call out who they were. And people were trying to help me understand, right? And that's why I like Twitter. It's like you can watch two people that maybe you know or don't know sort of have a conversation in real or not real time. And I'll be honest, watching those conversations, I didn't understand what the definition meant. And the definition was 32 pages long. So I look at it and I go, I'll take a read. And it you know what? Maybe it's just not my kind of language that will help Jimmy understand. Maybe this is the kind of information that I can't wrap my head around with. So I played with it. I did a Jimmy thing. So I took the 32-page definition. I hit Control-C, Control-V into ChatGPT. And I said, I want you to take this definition from APta and describe it to me using the smart brevity format, which is a cheat code. Write that down if you're using ChatGPT or any AI. Smart brevity is like Axios or Politico. They use this smart brevity format, which essentially is bottom line up front, or the bluff format if you have anything to do with military. It's like, give me the goods, get it to me quickly. And it came up with a 40 words. So it took 32 pages down to 40 words, and you can find it in this tweet thread. And then I decided to have a little fun with it. I decided to have a press conference. I essentially said, I'm going to ask you a bunch of obvious questions, and I want you to answer as if you are a representative of APta, and you are only basing it on the words that I have just given you. And we had this little discussion. And I thought the stuff was more clear. Now, I can't say if it's accurate or not, because I am not APta, but it was unique, and it was something I thought APta could or should do for clarity. Why couldn't this be a blog post, right? I'm trying to, so my goal with this is to bring it up and be like, what would you do if you were APta? Would you have done something similar? Would you have done blog posts? Because you want to come up when these things are searched for. Would you have created video content? What would your short-term or long-term strategy would have been around a 32-page definition? Because you're trying to define yourself. Because if there's enough people who don't even know what you do, that is the first problem, is define what you do and what your value is.
And the second problem is if it takes 32 pages to define what you do, that's a major problem.
Right. And of course, this is a bunch of really smart physical therapists. So they brought in, like, the citations alone were like 4 pages. So of the 32 pages, there were citations and things like that. I tried to come at it from a different direction. Again, I don't have any skin in the game with APta right now, unless they want to hire me. But I looked at it and said, oh, I'm curious, what is the definition? And when I saw the PDF, I was like, wow, that looks, I don't know where to go to get this definition. And then it was so much information. It was sort of like what CPGs try to do, is like, we're going to break down hundreds of research papers into an 83-page guide. And I'm like, well, that's still a little long. Where's the guide to the guide? So what would you have done with this PDF?
I mean, I like the way that you just broke it down. You used ChatGPT, and you said you went from 32 pages to 40 words, right? I mean, that's way more consumable for the audience, which in this case would be physical. It was to define for physical therapists, or I mean, the public doesn't really know or care, right? So it was a clinician-facing definition.
Yeah, and it was published in PTJ. So yeah, 100% clinician facing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They should probably hire you or someone like that to break it down and make it more of a simpler or more digestible, concise definition.
Wasn't that the whole original idea behind Twitter? Like, you only had so many characters, you had to condense everything into this small bit of information. I'm terrible at it. I'm the first one to admit it. But when I'm consuming the information, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Originally, Twitter was like the blog post. It was just the blog title, like the title of a blog
Yeah.
post.
Originally, it was 140 characters, and then we expanded. They doubled it. Now people even have trouble being brief in, what is it, 280? I think it's 280 characters per tweet.
So what else do we talk before we talk about the next topic? Anybody who's watching right now. So one of the other things Bo and I talked about last night was I had no idea how many people were actually watching this Breakfast Club.
Dozens.
Yeah, let us know, because it's spread across so many platforms. It's on my channel, Dave's channel, Jimmy's channel. It's everywhere. Go ahead and let us know. Tag us, put some sort of comment wherever you're watching. And of course, if you haven't already done it, you owe it to Jimmy. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and let's get that up and growing, because I think more therapists who aren't here already need to find out about it.
Thank you for the nudge, Tony. Let's radio segue into a radio segue, which would be a jingle, a jangle.
Yeah.
So jingles, I mean, ba-da-ba-ba. As soon as I say that, like, I'm talking about McDonald's, and there's obviously, dozens that we could riff on right now. I was thinking, like, first of all, should physical therapy practices have a jingle? Do you have to be, 10, 50 locations to, like, what scale do you have to be? Or can you be solo and have a little jingle at the beginning or end of your social media clips and reels? Jimmy, this past weekend when we met in person, he showed me this app called Captions. It absolutely blew me away. We did a selfie video. He edited it in front of me. It literally took like a minute. And then the deliverable was like, wow, like that is
crazy,
impressive. And so can a solo practice owner have a jingle? Should they consider some jingle at the beginning or end of their clips to kind of have some of that, marketing, branding juju? What do you guys think?
I think 100%. I don't think it even has to be a song. I think it could be a sound. The first person I heard talk about this was Gary Vee. And if you watch any of his content, there's an audio, there's a sound clip, there's something, and instantly it brings you to that. I go back. This is kind of a weird story, actually. This just came into my mind. So some of you may remember I said before I was a physical therapist, before I was even out of high school, I was deep into fine arts, graphic design. I was supposed to go to the museum school in Boston. So I grew up in an artistic household, music, fine arts, painting, pottery. I was part of a pottery group. We had a kiln, we had a studio. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I did in a previous life. But I can tell you right now, Violent Femmes, if you guys remember the Violent Femmes, if you remember, I don't even remember their main song, but one of their main songs, I can remember sitting in my room. I must have been a young teenager, painting, hearing, I'm going to say George Bush, but hearing someone declare war. And listening to the Violent Femmes. And now to this day, every time I hear the Violent Femmes come on, it takes me right back to that moment. So audio, sound, it's so powerful to make that connection. And I think we absolutely should be using that in any of our content. I've been looking for an audio bite that I can put into my videos at the beginning to make that connection with the audience.
Yeah, Ted's got one. It's almost like a drumstick on a wood block, but like a drop of water at the same time. Like it's got that unmistakable thing. Gary Vee calls it sonic branding.
Yeah, nice.
And I think in a world that moves at the speed of swipe, I agree, but I've been lazy and haven't done it. So maybe this is my wake-up call to do it. But I don't think it needs to be, I don't even think it needs to be voice, right? Like Gary Vee is like kind of taken on his, and most of the really successful ones are not, because that would be really, really impactful, but it would burn. It would get a little old kind of fast, right? So it's almost better if it's subtle. I would say yes, because you stand out. I won't say who, but was talking to someone on a call the other day, and they said, "Do you remember the first time we met?" And I said, "No." And they said, "We were in an elevator at CSM, and I had heard your podcast for 5 or 6 years. And we're in an elevator, and I don't know who the heck you are. And this was before I did a lot of video stuff. And they said, you started talking, and I recognized your voice." So I would say it works, right? With frequency over time. They're like, oh my gosh, I know who that person is. I would say a specific sound used over and over and over again will get that remarkability or identifiability faster. So I agree. I don't do it. I've always thought about it. Maybe this will be the thing that pushes me over the edge.
I still love Jimmy's original Breakfast Club in the morning. I wish you would bring that back.
All right, maybe I'll go back to the archives and break that out, make a little hotkey, put a.
You don't even have to do it live. Just pre-record it, have it up there.
It was definitely unique.
Karen says it's kind of like your brand. It is, right? Like, I know people want to say it's your logo or your colors or your fonts or your mission statement or your values or any of those things, but your brand is like, I would almost say your brand is none of those things. The brand is what Tony just said. It's what I think of when I hear that noise, right? It's what I think of when I see your logo, what it tells me. It's not what you give them. It's what they think of. It's what they think or feel or smell. I remember I asked a question the other day, well, what does your business smell like? You know, if Nike had a cologne, what would it smell like? So I think the answer should be yes. You know, playing off what Dave just said, I showed off that app, that captions app, right? Super easy. I think that I don't get a nickel if you use it. I don't have a promo code, but captions app's like $50 a year. You, in my opinion, you use it 5 times and the thing's paid for itself, right? So the tools are getting simpler. Right now, Tony and Dave and me, we're all in our houses and we're reaching dozens of people live right now, hundreds or thousands of people after we reshare this via podcast. So the tools are getting simpler. So if the tools are leveling out and making things easy, more people are going to be doing it. What's the differentiator? The differentiator is you, how often you do them, how well you do them, how differently you do them. The tools are getting simpler. 8 years ago when I launched the podcast, it was a pain in the ass. Things were not easy. Things were very hard. Things are a lot easier now. So to get that message out, it's getting more crowded. What are you doing? I think a sonic branding, a jingle, is a great life hack for that.
Another interesting social media component, and I was going to take us in a slightly different direction. So I think Tony was going to follow up on that. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, just real quick, I was going to say, you mentioned smells. Mike Chu and I talk about smells all the time. For all the people listening that don't have a podcast, but just have a clinic, or they're going to go to somebody's house, you know, I would say be mindful of the sounds that are in the clinic, the smells that are in the clinic. I for years never did it, but wanted to get one of those automatic cookie baking machines because we know how powerful that smell of fresh baked cookies are. We used to make coffee, and that smell of coffee, the aroma, it makes it such a more pleasant experience. You could have the best food in the world, but if you're in a restaurant that smells like urine, nobody's going to want to eat there. You have to curate that entire experience, and it's way beyond your clinical skill. It's way beyond your clinical skill.
Have you guys heard that Disney does that? That Disney will pump the smell of cookies in different places?
Yeah. Or the thing, if you're trying to sell your house, fresh baked cookies, the smell is because
it makes it feel like home. It's a comfort level or comfort zone. It's you know, makes you feel good.
Supposedly smell is the strongest sense tied to memory or something like that, where it's easier. I mean, I remember in PT school, someone reads that and we would study with, like, I don't know, perfume, cologne, something, body spray on, and then you'd wear it the day of the test and kind of be sniffing yourself. I don't know if it worked, but I'm not saying I didn't try it.
All right, so
Dave, go ahead.
Another social media example. Tony's going to love this. I don't know, Tony, on LinkedIn, if you are following Angie McGilvery, Apex Physical Therapy down in Florida, and they've been putting out social media content around, and they will film her and or the other practice owner signing the contracts to terminate in-network contracts, low-paying contracts, or contracts that are doing all the audits and the chargebacks and all the nefarious activities that insurances are doing. They have a group meeting and they're recording it. They're filming it literally for social media purposes. They have their team in a powwow meeting. And, most recently, I think yesterday or the day before, she posted a video around, we dropped the 2 out of 3 biggest payers. And here's the third one, Humana. And she's holding up the Humana. Literally, it's a post and it says like, no more Humana, no more Humana. I mean, it's pretty smart, pretty genius, got a bunch of likes, and they're making content around dropping in-network payers. I mean, I've never seen it. I know Tony would love it. I don't know what you guys think about it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Jimmy talks about building in public all the time. This is kind of a version of that. Letting your community, your tribe, see what you're doing, know what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. I think we need more of it.
We in show business, not tell business. Angie is demonstrating showing, not telling, right? They could do this in private, which is fine, but then they would need to tell people that they did it, and also why it matters, right? So Dave and I, we haven't released these clips, but we talked about a mutual friend, somebody I used to work for, was Carlos Barrio. And Carlos often will talk about, PT Mills. He made PT Mills the villain in a narrative, in a story, right? Angie's doing the same thing with insurance, right? Where she's saying, here's how I'm fighting back. I sort of like Angie's example better because she's showing exactly how she, not just saying, there's the bully over there. There it is. We don't like that. That's not good. She's saying, well, I'm doing something about it. We're not working with these people. We're not negotiating with these people.
And here's why. Like, she's describing like, we've gotten all these denials and all these random like bulk audits or bulk denials or whatever, like just automated. A lot of these insurances will just, bulk denial a bunch of, dates of service or whatever without any recourse or without any heads up or anything like that. And so they're getting busier as a practice. I don't know them and never spoke to them, but I'm looking at their content. They're doing diagnostic ultrasound. They're doing, what's the other, not EKG, like EMG testing as well, EMG. For like nerve conduction velocity testing and all that. So they're doing some interesting stuff with technology. They're also sharing that. They're sharing videos around that. But it's super interesting to see what they're doing inside their clinic. And I love what they're doing. So
this goes to, somebody said this phrase or this idea, and I couldn't wrap my head around it the first time. I was like, that's just someone like playing with words to sound smart. And then I listened to it over and over and over again, like Tony, like Dave. Sometimes I change my mind. And this idea with Angie is, I want you to tell me a story. Don't tell me about a story. So telling you about a story would be like, if they had a long post or if they had a press release about, we have canceled contracts with these providers because of this. That's sort of telling them about a story. But telling them a story needs to have time, date, characters, context, and they're doing that. And is there a difference? Yes. I mean, coming from the background of communications, I can't tell you what I think the value of a press release is sometimes. I think now it's probably better because it's like search is like SEO. But back in the day, a press release, we used to say we put it in the old circular file, which was code for garbage can, which meant you didn't have anything worthy enough to land in a newspaper, on the radio, or on TV. You had to print your own. Press releases were sort of useless. So Angie's demonstrating they're telling you a story. They're not telling you about a story. They're showing you, not telling you. And there's a major difference there.
And taking this back to earlier conversations today, it's basically just one line. It's disruption. Next on the chopping block, Humana. And then she's got 3 links to 3 articles that talk about lawsuits and AI and just short, sweet. You understand it. You see the video clip of her talking to the team. Great job.
I would love to know if people are watching now or listening later, if you honestly believe, if you're in healthcare, I don't care where in healthcare, or you know what, anything, business, and healthcare is a business. If you think you're in tell business or show business, because for a long time, many businesses, healthcare included, or industries, healthcare included, we think we're in telcare. Like tell business. I'm going to tell you how smart I is. I'm going to tell you how evidence-based I am. Like, can we talk about how silly that term sounds? Dude, my mechanic is evidence-based. He changes oil because there's evidence. If you don't, the engine seizes. Like, evidence-based is not this thing way up here on the value pyramid. In my opinion, it is at the this is the bottom of the value pyramid. I base everything on evidence. Great. So you don't believe in magic. Fantastic. Now that we got that out of the way, what am I going to be able to get when you're done doing the thing to my car or my body? Explain that to me. Evidence-based is how you do what you do, not what you do. And it's certainly not what I get. But I get it. We run to that really often. And it makes me sad because it doesn't do what you think it does. It does not land a punch.
You know, talking about show business, Rafael Salazar. So I had posted a while back, I love occupational therapists. I've secretly said I might be an occupational therapist at heart, just because everything I do in physical therapy, I want it to be so function based. But Rafi had said in a recent video and post that he will pay his staff to produce social media content, to record video, to do things like that. I think Dave and you and I might have talked about this once in the past. I've been in business 22 years. I've never had a clinician, and I've offered it to every single one. Even right now, I know they would be amazing at producing content, at recording video, at showing people what we do in the clinic. In 22 years, I've never hired a single clinician, PT, PTA, OT, CODA, who is willing to do it, even if I pay them for the time to do it. What about you guys? Have you heard of other people doing it? Have you seen success in this? Rafi's doing it. His staff is creating content. They're getting paid to create the content. Seems like, Dave, you would have like the perfect scenario with your team. What do you guys find?
I haven't yet. I have recently contacted some local videographers to try to get some pricing around them following my therapist around. I've even considered like me going and doing some, even if it's iPhone, capture over the shoulder of my therapist, obviously with the patient's approval and consent. Sure. A couple of my therapists, I haven't asked them yet, but I'm sure at least one or two, especially my one full-timer that is a new full-timer, would be interested or be open to it, because he's already created his own Instagram content before joining me.
I think the one you would see that would change this complete paradigm to make it mandatory, like to take it from, wow, that'd be cute, to you have to do this, this is the bottom, is if a large organization, like a big one, right? Like an organization with 1,000+ employees said, we're gonna turn 100 of our clinicians into content creators, right? If you did that, that would, I mean, think about it. If each of them did one piece a day, now you would need to give them 3 P's and 3 T's, right? People, product, process. So you have the people. If you were a clinic with 1,000+ employees and you said, I don't know, PTO, like, would you even need to pay them in cash? I don't know. But if you give them people, product, process, tools, training, and time, showed them how to do it, made it easy. There's actually an app for this, and I know you're gonna be shocked that I found this. And I have no affiliation, but it's called Cinebody. And I would explain it by saying it's like bowling with guardrails on. Essentially, you would create a template for your clinicians to film videos or to create a clip, and then they would shoot it on their phone. It even goes so far, if your phone's in the wrong orientation, the app will be like, oh no, hey, you got to rotate, and it'll automatically put it on certain frames per second, and it'll make it look fantastic. It's Mad Libs, fill in the blanks. If you could do that at scale, you wouldn't need to have a marketing department. I mean, I've even had a sign on my door in communications. Marketing is not a department, it is an activity. It is a verb. It's not a department. And your best marketing is a great product. And your product in this profession is a service. And the people providing it, who better to show it off?
Do you guys remember Mad Libs? I totally forgot about it until you just brought it up. Yeah. Every other word was, something bad. But my kids used to do Mad Libs. We used to buy those books. I think it has to be approached from the perspective of, I'm going to go hire a therapist that's already producing content to bring them in. Because I think what we've seen, and it's been well established, when you look at any of the big players in the space, and it could be across any profession, they generally do a pretty vanilla, boring, bland job. even with the best templates, even with the best prompts and the best formatting, nobody really cares, you know, and it's because it's not coming from within them. They're just producing whatever it is. It's just like if I create protocols for my treatments and my therapist do my protocols, I could get a robot to do that. Nobody's going to care about it. So when I look across like YouTube and Instagram and some TikTok and some of the other platforms, I would think that's the therapist that I want to recruit, not just because they're a good therapist, but because they're already proven effective on those platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't teach give a shit, right? So if there's no barrier for that person to do it right now. So seek out the people who are already doing it. Or I say, get a great clinician who wants nothing to do with creating content. Put a camera person on him, as Dave is suggesting. Like,
yeah.
You don't think that's gold? I mean, to say that wouldn't work. I mean, Gary V and D-Rock paired up and people sort of knew who I didn't know who the hell he was, right? People within a wine circle, right? That's how we started with winelibrary.com and his random YouTube channel. But he just filmed everything. I think you have to have a certain personality for it, though. And that's why he hired D-Rock, which was his like personal cinematographer. And his only job, here's the cool part. He Steve Jobs'd him too. He was like, I'm going to hire you. He's like, what's my job? He's like, find stuff. Like, he didn't tell him, okay, we're going to shoot this video and it's going to be really kitschy. He's just like, I do me, make a reality show out of me, but it doesn't need to be a 40-minute video. Make it 40 seconds. If I hire you and you follow me around for 24 hours and you find the best 40 seconds, that works. Yeah. That does more than the pre-prepared 30-minute broadcast or live stream that we might do. I mean, for full transparency, we usually come up with 3 or 4 ideas for these live streams that we do. One big idea, and then each of us brings a subtopic, but we don't script it. It's an outline.
Yeah. And Gary Vee is the one that coined the phrase document, don't create. Don't try to create the next Mr. Beast video. Just document what you're doing every single day. And I see therapists making amazing gains on YouTube and other video platforms, but I think they would be even better if they just documented the things that are already happening, that are already going on in their daily life, in their treatment, and even outside. Like, you know, if you're a therapist, okay, you can document your patient interactions, but you're probably going to injure yourself at some point. You're probably going to wake up with a stiff knee, a stiff ankle. Like, document those moments, record those moments, let the general public see what therapists do. Today, I released a video that talks about running with a meniscus tear. So I've had a meniscus tear for decades. There's good days, there's bad days. I recorded what I do when I wake up and I come down and my knee is clicking, compared to another day I wake up, I come down and my knee is silent. Like, I think people would benefit from hearing what we really do with our own musculoskeletal issues.
Show me, don't tell me.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, we're in show business.
And I know we mentioned this before, or I mentioned this before, like some of the coolest videos that Tony's posted on YouTube are where he's showing like a patient's knee or calf or ankle, and he's just like you're kind of describing it to the potential video listener, watcher, the audience. But it's kind of like the same tonality or the way that you would speak if you were describing it to the patient. Like, hey, like, you know, see this, you know, your total knee replacement scar, like the steri strips. Like, don't peel those off. Don't pick them. These will just fall off. Sometimes there's a little scar kind of attached to it. So don't pick it, just leave it. And the way you're describing it is like, you don't really need a lot of, you know, coaching, or you're going to just do your normal thing that you would say to patients. And the first couple might be awkward. You post with approval of the patient. You might post them on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube. And you might get some therapists that say like, oh, that's wrong or whatever. Or you might get crickets. You might get no viewers or whatever. You have to get over that hurdle, that hump. And I know it's challenging for anyone because we all started at 0 with like content, and we all started with 0 audience. And then if you just consistently do it over time, like right now, guys, we have like the most live viewers that we've ever had, like today. So like it takes time.
That's awesome. Just so you guys know, I'm looking at it right now on my knee replacement channel. Out of the top 5 performing short videos, These have 268,000 views, 263,000, 171,000. The 4 of the top 5, almost exactly the same video, different patients, day 1, day 2, 1 week post-op, but it's basically me just explaining to my patient, pointing with my finger, this is what's going on. This is the water resistant dressing. These little canals, it's no longer water resistant because now there's an opening, and just giving them like 10 to 15 seconds of information about their dressing. Those are the top performing videos for my shorts.
Pablo Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. So here's an idea. You could put it in any sort of workflow. This could be for hiring or for just monetization or attention or whatever, right? So good artists copy, great artists steal. One of a huge 4.8 million subscribers on YouTube is Dad, How Do I? If you've heard this guy's YouTube channel, the backstory is apparently he didn't have a dad growing up. So he started doing videos like how to tie a tie, how to change oil, how to change a tire, right? Doing all the things you're like, I don't know how to do it. But there was a cool angle. He was like, nobody taught me how to do it. So I just learned how to do it. Here's how to shave. Here's how to jump a car. Simple things, but the little things are the big things. So good artists copy, great artists steal. If you took this general approach, could you imagine what would happen if you were the internet's clinical instructor? Right? You're just going to be the outpatient physical therapist, clinical instructor, and you're going to answer all the questions. Let's say you're somebody who's been a CI for 25 years. And if I had lunch with you, you'd be like, I heard them all, man. I heard all the questions. I go, really? Well, then I want you to answer them all again for me. And sometimes it's going to be a 20-second video, and sometimes it's going to be a 10-minute video of you explaining stuff. But the Dad, How Do I, CI, How Do I version of that, thoughts on how that would go? Be the internet's clinical instructor.
You know what I think is, I've seen therapists shine the most when they have a student, when they're a CI. And one of the things that I've always promoted and I've never seen happen is, in full disclosure, we have stopped taking clinical students because we just don't have the facility for them anymore. I can't deliver the experience that I want to deliver to a student anymore. So over about 1.5 to 2 years, we've just stopped taking students. It breaks my heart because that's probably one of the greatest joys that I have, is being a CI for a student. But imagine the student, put a camera on that student, let that student record the student's perspective of you being the CI, even if they never get the actual patient. Yeah, I purchased that chest harness, the GoPro, all of that stuff. I mean, it could be done so many different ways. It would be so valuable, so beneficial, not just to other students, to other therapists, to other patients. All of that should be captured, not created. It doesn't have to be created. Just have to curate a little bit, clean out the dead spaces, clean out the junk that, nobody wants to see, but students could do body cams on students. It'd be amazing.
Look, this exists already, right? There was a TV show that has some sort of records. By the way, the longest running, I think, jingle for a show was Bad Boys Inner Circle for cops. Yeah. We put cameras or camera people in cop cars, and like, is it exciting and crazy? Yeah, man. I had family that were cops and firemen, and then the craziest stuff happens. That's when they get called. But the stuff that you want to learn from, is it different? Like, could you be the internet's clinical instructor? And how cool is this? Because there's a bunch of different settings. Because you could be the internet's pediatric clinical instructor. You could be the outpatient sports. You could be neuro. It's all the same, but different. But there's your new Barstool Sports. Like, and that's what you do. So to make this simple, literally just body cam, permission. Obviously, we're not saying just do it, but permission, and you record. Then you could do everything yourself, or you could hire someone. But this is a long play that I'm sure the guy who did, Dad, How Do I wasn't doing anything, didn't expect this to go to 4.8 million subscribers, right? But that's the best idea, is the simple idea. So be the internet's clinical instructor. But what you highlighted, why they're so good when there's a student, is because there's an audience. You can visualize the audience.
Look at Jimmy bringing jingles back in, connecting it to the cameras. I mean, incredible. This is the host with the most, folks. All right. with the cameras, with the audience, you're right. The CI with the one student, they shine, right? They might, you know, they kind of maybe have more energy, all of that. There's some folks that are probably watching or listening that are going to say, yeah, well, that's different because it's one-to-one. But if you're recording something, then it's like, who knows the audience, and who knows how much I'm going to be judged. And some advanced clinician is going to say like, oh, you know, that's a little off, or I wouldn't do it that way or whatever. And that's what prevents people from really doing this.
Yeah,
I think.
it really is.
And why? Because it's our own insecurities. And every time I feel my own insecurities rising up, I have to stop, step out of my body for a minute, remind myself, you know what? I'm not the best clinician. I'm not whatever. I'm not this or that, but I am going to get better. And this is the way that I get better. I put myself in uncomfortable positions. I let the public judge me. I still go back to, and I've said this a couple episodes ago, I appreciate patient privacy. I appreciate HIPAA compliance. I appreciate all of those things. But I think as much as we have that, it also sacrifices the quality of care, because when we have a camera on ourselves and when we're sharing that with the public, I guarantee we're better therapists. I guarantee we're focused more, we're paying closer attention, and we're going to improve the next time because we see what we did the last time, you know? And so we watch film for a reason in sports, and we learn from our actions. This is what we need to take that profession to the next level.
I think one of the reasons my podcast did well in the beginning, people were like, oh, it's your radio background. I was like, I don't know how much that was going to help me. I think it really was. I was swimming in the opposite direction of most other people. I was a radio DJ who was trying to learn how to be a PT. A lot of PTs who started podcasts, they were going in the direction. I'm a PT. I know stuff I want to share, right? So my whole thing was, I don't know anything, but in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to learn something. And since you're listening, you're going to learn something too. Take that approach, right? When there's a student there, it changes the dynamic. Now you can picture the audience. My job is to get that person, the student holding the camera or wearing the camera, to understand this concept, which I know as a CI comes up often. It's an FAQ. What are the FAQs from a patient perspective? What are the FAQs from a student perspective? Those are, you could have 2 videos in every interaction. You know what I mean? Like you could be like, okay, steri strips, talk to a student, record that video, and then do it explaining it to a patient, release it on a different channel. It's for a different audience, because when the who changes, everything after it changes.
Now, a popular topic that we haven't brought up, and we probably don't have time to get into today, but we can use as a teaser for next week: should CIs get paid for being a CI? Yeah. Right. And one of my favorite ways for a CI to get paid for being a CI is to take content like this and monetize that content. I've got several ways that it could be done for all comfort levels. But what do you guys think? Should CIs be paid for being CIs?
Of course, yes.
I'm going to give my answer next week because I might disagree.
Got it.
Parting shots. Tony's got a parting shots. Tony.
Oh man. Think about how you smell. The better you smell, the better your business is going to grow.
What scent are you putting off into the universe? Dave, what do you got? Parting shot.
Sonic branding. Never heard of that until today. So rethink audio, video. These conversations always get me re-energized and make me kind of step back and reconsider like what else we could be doing or should be doing. So audio and video, but especially the video on the patient facing side.
Yeah, I would say document, don't create. Don't be afraid to flex and share those things, because if you're not showing it, no one's paying attention to it, right? Pay attention, spend time. You've got to earn it. Are we going to be back on Tuesday? We're doing this twice a week now, Tuesday?
I think we can do it.
I'm in. Yeah, why not? If you have a question or have a comment as they're rolling in now, let us know what those things are. Maybe something you suggest will be on a future episode that we can dig into. Would love your thoughts. Next week, I'll have the phone set up too. We can go deeper into phone calls. For Breakfast Club PT in the morning, he's Tony, he's Dave, I'm Jimmy.